In today's vlog, we are going to continue talking about Matthias De Stefano's vlog that he wrote July 20th on the Universal, and we are comparing it to the Law of One Tarot right here. So, and if you want to follow along, you can purchase my workbook. I've got the link in the description. It's just on Amazon, and I wrote it for this exact purpose. So, all right. So yesterday we left off right here, and what he's talking about is he's talking about movies, and he says, like, what is it about movies that we love, you know? And what the I Am says is you see these stories because they inspire you in your own, because they move you to feel, they experience new realities that you couldn't otherwise. The brain perceives the stories through the eyes and ears, interprets them as a reality because it searches its records for similar memories or emotions and ignites a chemical reaction that produces all emotions that a movie can generate in you or that a book can produce in you. So, do you remember when I said that I thought that the emotional aspect of what Matthias De Stefano talks about? So Matthias says that there's a mental aspect on this 3D world. We have an emotional aspect and like a material aspect or something. And I thought the emotional aspect was the body, and the spirit complex was more the material aspect of it. And the reason I thought that was because without energy, without vibration, a cell can't turn into 2 and turn into 3 and turn into a zygote and then a fetus. That's what I thought. But after reading this, I'm starting to change my mind. The reason I'm thinking maybe the spirit complex is the emotional aspect and the body complex is the material. The reason I'm feeling that is because in this sentence, he says, the brain perceiving the stories through the eyes and ears interprets them as reality. So remember, you know, when people talk about quantum jumping and reality shifts and timelines, all they're talking about, all a different reality is your thoughts. When you change your thought process, you are changing reality. It's nothing more than a chemical reaction that's happening in your body. So therefore, he says, the brain perceiving the stories through the eyes and ears interprets them as a reality because it searches its records for similar memories or emotions. So the searching of the records feels like, to me, the searching of the records feels like it in the lower mind could be the subconscious mind. Now, why am I thinking that maybe the spirit complex is the emotional aspect is because right here he says, okay, because it searches its records and similar memories or emotions and ignites a chemical reaction, a chemical reaction that produces all the emotions that a movie can generate in you or that a book can produce in you. So why I feel like this is important is because let's one more time. The brain perceiving the stories through the senses, okay, interprets them as reality. So what happens once it's interpreted to the senses, you've done a reality jump or a reality shift through whatever show you're watching or whatever movie you're watching. So it shifts your reality in that second because it searches its records for similar memories or emotions. So the records, if all of our records are kept in the water of our body, the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind, it searches its records for similar memories or emotions. So memories, thought, emotions, the chemical reaction in your organs produced by electricity, by water. and ignites a chemical reaction that produces all the emotions that a movie can generate. So the chemical reaction part really makes me feel like it's the body complex. Like that chemical reaction is now, it happens because a vibration was created through emotion. So that's why I'm thinking maybe I was wrong. Maybe the spirit complex is all emotion, but the chemical reactions that start to happen from the emotion after the five senses kick in, memory kicks in, and emotions kick in, like whatever's in the subconscious mind here in the body complex and here, that is when in the spirit complex for the potentiator, remember we talked about this lightning bolt, you either receive it or you don't. So if you fall back into your past memories, reactions based on whatever movie you're watching and whatever triggers you have, you are fully gonna become a catalyst to the potentiators of the past, to the subconscious mind of the past. But if you're able to observe through the significator here, you may, this lightning bolt, the spirit complex of the potentiator, that you may be able to observe your emotion towards the movie you're watching and say, this isn't mine. This reality that's triggering me to relate my past to whatever is happening in this movie, this isn't mine. This is what wisdom does. This is what happens when you become the observer. Remember, the significator is wisdom and light. The potentiator is the tower card of the spirit complex. The main focus that people miss here is the light. If anything, I've heard tarot readers look at the lightning bolt and be like, oh my God, something bad is coming. It's destruction. It's, yes, this is, this is destruction, and it will destroy you if you keep in your patterns that are not allowing you to move forward and experience in life. Okay. So then maybe the spirit complex is emotions, and then the body complex is the material, the chemical reactions, when an actual chemical reaction happens, and then more emotion, that's the spirit complex. Maybe emotion is spirit complex, because like the matrix, the womb of this, the spirit complex of the matrix, the womb, she's pretty tied up, man. Is that an emotional tie-up that's happening through all these chemical reactions in the body that we're blind to? Because remember, the body complex of the matrix is wearing a mask. And her scales, they're balanced, but she's wearing a mask. So maybe these chemical reactions are constantly producing emotion, the spirit complex, and she's all tied up. And these emotions are of destruction when deposited through your patterns that are built from when you're born in the water of your body, which creates a lot of yuck in your organs. Then this wheel of choice, the catalyst, the wheel of choice begins to turn more to the negative. So then you attract more negative. And this negative, again, is chemical reactions. It is your solar plexus. It is action. And that is shown through the mind, the catalyst, mind complex, the empress, because she is sitting on that box with floating third eyes. So it's all lower chakras. There's no even knowing of the third eye. But to break out of this, what you have to do to break out of this catalyst is have absolute faith in the spirit complex of the catalyst. And when you have absolute faith, we can go, don't forget, we can go diagonal in this law of one the way the cards are laid out, you can also go diagonal. So when you have absolute faith, what happens is that faith is a higher vibration. And this faith, like listen to that 528 hertz music. You can find a lot of faith out of 528. It's so healing. So when you start doing things that are self-care and you're doing them for your own expansion into more of your spirit complex, through faith, you will start shedding. See how many layers this hermit's wearing? You will start shedding those layers of terror, of fear, of deposit, of disease. You will start shedding them, which it loosens up the patterns of the matrix of the mind, and you get to the true magician, which is will. You will, because we all lose will. We lose our intention. Look at this. How can somebody that is so bogged down move forward? I remember being in this, man. I was in this after my husband passed away for years, for like a decade. It was the worst time of my life. So much suffering over and over, like it's the same. And I was trying to have faith, and I was trying, but I was so entangled in pain and suffering that only faith, once in a while, I would have like little glimpses of feeling okay. And those days I would hold that faith. I would listen to meditation music. I would do things that would heal me, and all slowly, so slowly, I'm telling you, it took like over a decade, 12 or 13 years, the layers of this hermit in the body complex started coming off. And as these layers came off, you feel loose, like this untightening, this unwovenness. And what it feels like is it actually feels, you feel lighter in your head. You're not walking around with so much pain and sorrow. You're not in the past anymore. You're more in the present. Because what kept me in this cycle of pain and suffering for so long was that I was trying so hard to avoid my past and not think about it, because I was so traumatized and in pain and depressed and all that I did the opposite, and I started doing things for the future that weren't making sense because I was avoiding my past. And it was with faith. With this faith card, it was only with faith and surrender of, I don't want to feel like this anymore. There's got to be another way, is I started shedding this hermit. And I started finding like my love. Like I love the Law of One Tarot. I started really studying the Law of One Tarot. Then I started applying the Law of One Tarot to my life all the time. And then I started thinking, my intention is that one day when I've experienced all these cards, I really want to teach it. I want to make videos. And here I am. I wrote a book on the Law of One. It's a workbook on the Law of One Tarot. And that workbook, it kind of goes through what I went through over the years with this Law of One Tarot. So I really found spirituality, and I love it. And I was thinking about spirituality all the time, which helped me undo these layers, loosen the patterns of the matrix of the mind, and come back to like, I love this. I love spirituality. I love learning things about spirituality that have everything to do with the body complex, with chemical reactions. What happens when oxytocin is released? I wanted to figure that out. How do you actually truly manifest? And now I'm realizing that true manifestation doesn't occur for people. It's pushed. So you'll get what you want even if you push it, but it'll collapse because yin always destroys. But when you are able to be this hanged man and you're neutral in your yin and yang, and you come to a balance, and what that means is you're in absolute presence. You're in absolute, how you manifest is you manifest from being in the present moment as much as you can. If that means enjoying all the colors of the green that I'm seeing outside right now, light green, dark green, it's like a green yellow. The grapes are green. There's some purple grapes, and I'm appreciating them. That is being in the moment. That is the hangman. And from there is where the wisdom of the sun, the light, can really be absorbed, because you become a sphere. Do you see how these two are standing in the midst of a sphere? And there's a guy and a gal, yin and yang, here for a reason, because the surrender, look at, is into the sun, and look at their hands holding. And what is he doing? He's in unity within himself, right? The surrender gives it to the sun, to the light, and now there's no separation. Now you see two hands holding the sun card. They're looking at each other in oneness, in balance. This one here is, the transformation is unity, but unity cannot happen until the sun and you, this triad is formed. The sun, let's go, one, the yang, the yin, and back to the sun. There's your triad within the two circles. Okay, for this reason, your nervous system lives that story as its own, and you laugh, cry, so you basically have a reaction. So he says, I'm a story. You are the observer feeling what it is like to be a character in a movie. This is what I felt like, honest to God, when I started feeling like, when I started saying to myself over and over, I'm going to be the cat. I am going to be the dreamer. That is what I'm going to do. You truly do feel like you're the observer. I mean, I've been an observer for a long time, but I think more from my mind. Now I'm doing it. The mind is, the mental aspect is yang, right? The body is yin. So now I'm being the observer through my intuition. Your subconscious mind is intuition. It's like those gut feelings that you have that guide you. That was the difference, being in the dream state and being like an observer from yang. And I'm still going to continue doing it. I don't know. I'm very early on in the process, so I can't really talk too much about it. So the I says, I am the internal reaction that occurs in the mind of who observes the story, manifested in a possibility of it. The I am says, he becomes a participant and protagonist of his imagination. How many times as a child did you imagine stories and became them? The I says, many. I used to play in the neighborhood with my friends, creating stories about dinosaurs or things like that. And there were villains and heroes. And we turned the square into a prehistoric jungle. And he became animals and we became animals or superheroes. The I am says, the ability to turn a broomstick into a sword, a tree into a castle, a rag into a cape, an abandoned wagon into a spaceship. It's the same ability that molecules have to turn into a tree, to become a human, to be a spaceship, to be a sun. Wow, that is beautiful. Imagination ties. The I am says, tell me, what is the plan for which you become into this world? He says, after Tumti, heaven on earth. Hey Siri, what does Tumti mean? Not Timothy. Let me see if I can find, I don't know what Tumti means. What is the ancestral plan looking for? Asked the I am. The I says the idea was to make all cosmic concepts, the universal mind, able to manifest in matter. We understood that our reality is an extension of the divine mind, and that living the world only from the senses, we could lose the notion of that the creative totality. Therefore, we had to reconnect the mind with the mundane, opening the doors to the subtle heaven so that it incarnates in the form of this world. And the plan, the I Am says, and the plan had 3 levels. The I says, the universal plan, the galactic plan, and the earth plan. The universal plan said that everything was established under universal laws, and that it implied the expansion and expression of the mind generating all the bases. It was to make the idea a reality where the mind could experience itself. So let's read that again. So the I Am says, and the plan had 3 levels. The I says, the universal plan, the galactic plan, and the earth plan. The universal plan said that everything was established under universal law, and that it implied the expansion and expression of the mind generating all bases. It was to make the idea a reality where the mind could experience self. You know, the universal plan. So these 3 plans that he's talking about, the universal plan once again feels like the mind complex. The galactic plan, the spirit complex, and the earth plan, the body complex. That's what it feels like. The observer who becomes the observed, the spectator who sees himself as the protagonist of the story. The I says, yes, this brings us to the galactic plan, in which each galaxy has a group of conscious beings that try to maintain the balance and creative forces of the observer and the observed. They maintain homeostasis. And then the terrestrial plan is to generate conscious life capable of becoming a portal between the divine and the mundane. In a way, it is how the universe created the ETs to create our civilizations, so that the civilizations allow their individuals to connect with the ETs in all dimensions and through rejoin the creative mind. Everything he just said feels to me like it is the sacred geometry, the transformation. Because only sacred geometry can hold what he's saying here. This brings us to the galactic plan. It is in which each galaxy has a group of conscious beings that try to maintain the balance and the creative forces of the observed and the observer, maintain homeostasis. Yeah. All right. That is transformation. That's sacred geometry. And it's really interesting because last time I talked about, this experience that we're having here through our heart chakra on the 3D. It's interesting because when you go into the higher mind, this Lover's card, Gemini constellation, is Yang. And when you flip it from the middle, from the experience, from here, like fold this paper in half, the Lover's card, Yang, transformation of the mind, falls straight onto her, falls onto the potentiator, the orange ray, the high priestess, who is Yin. Yin is chaos. Yin doesn't have an order. Mother Nature has an order, of course, but there's also a very chaotic underlining base to Mother Nature here to Earth. Very chaotic. It's destruction. Right here. The spirit complex of the potentiator, destruction. But when you take transformation, the mind complex, Yang, sacred geometry is Yang, and you apply it with consciousness and balance of the yin and yang, that is when the subconscious mind, the chaos subsides and you can see truth. but it's through sacred geometry, through this transformation. I love you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow.